You are listening to I Survived the Wild Outdoors podcast, where real outdoors men and women share their heroic tales of survival. I'm your host, Brad Mathewson, and this is their story. Adak Island in the Aleutian chain of Alaska is a place shrouded in mystery and history. Once a bustling U.S. Navy base with a population around 6,000 people, that number dwindled significantly after the base was closed in 1997. Today, the island is mostly abandoned, with only 80 residents remaining. The island's remoteness, which lies 1,200 air miles from Anchorage, and is the southernmost community in Alaska. Hunters go to Adak Island primarily for caribou hunting. The island offers a unique experience with no bears, biting insects, or thorny brush, which you encounter in a majority of Alaska's wilderness. And it was just the kind of adventure Chris and Tyler Johnson were looking for when they jumped at a chance at a last-minute cancellation hunt. And if you're a fan of the show, you'll remember Chris and Tyler's story of survival from the last episode, where Tyler was attacked by a brown bear on the Kenai Peninsula. Luckily for Tyler, his father, Chris, was there to save his life. Now in Adak Island, the roles will be reversed. Can you tell us what happened that day, Tyler?
So it was September of 2021. About a month prior, a guy gave my dad a call and said, hey, there's a couple of guys that decided not to go on this Adak trip, and there's 2 open seats on the plane. Would we like to go? And of course, my father and I were not going to turn down a epic hunt. So we ended up getting onto this plane. And for those that don't know what Adak is or where it's at, it's located in Alaska, in Aleutian Islands. It is the second island to the last. We actually have a military base there, and it's next to the island that's the last one, called Attu, which was actually invaded by Japan. So that's a little back history on that. We were going hunting for caribou. Back in the 1940s, they decided to put caribou on the island. So if the soldiers had the supply chain cut, they would have some animals there to hunt and feed and survive. Other than that, there's really nothing there except for mountains and maybe your occasional seal that pops up and a couple eagles and maybe some seagulls, since it's located in the Bering Sea. It's a lot larger than you would think it would be, which is actually kind of hilarious because the other 6 people that went with us, nothing against them. Some of them thought they were going to be hunting out of a pickup truck and shooting a caribou from the back, kind of like, just the way you see in movies. Well, that's not the case. And we didn't do any research when we got there either, other than we knew that it was an island in Alaska. I was actually so confident from the stories I heard that we were going to get a caribou that I bought a chest freezer. So, yeah, don't do that. For a hunt. Anyways, so we get to Adak on a long flight. It's not the smoothest flight to get into Adak, to say the least. And this island is about 200 plus square miles. It's a lot larger than you would anticipate without doing any research while going. Especially we just went on a whim, and yes, let's do this. So we got there, and to let you understand what Adak is, it used to have a military base there. I think in 1945-ish, I'm not exact on that, all the way up to the early 90s, I believe, which now it's decommissioned. They have a whole bunch of cookie cutter houses. I think the residents there used to be about 6,000 at one point, and now it's below 200, if that. It looks like Chernobyl. It really does. When you watch a documentary of Chernobyl, they could almost take the same sample from Adak. It's a ghost town. All the houses, their vinyl is ripped off the side, moss growing through them. hundreds of houses, just empty, slightly creepy too. If the wind blew, a merry-go-round would just kind of go around in circles. Right? It is absolutely bizarre, super bizarre. You can walk around in the old abandoned military bases, which is also hilarious because one of the guys got spooked and said, "Ghost!" And then he actually thought he saw something, which is hilarious. And a whole bunch of other guys, grown men, were like, "Oh my God, a ghost!" Because when you're down there, it really does feel really creepy. I like to put, on the record that I did not run. I sprinted. But anyways, moving on. So we checked out those areas. We hiked a few days. I think the second day we were there, the first day we got settled, the second day we went around the military bases, and the third day we decided to go hunting. And like I said, no one knew what they were getting into when we got in our truck that we rented there, drove down. I was in the back of the pickup, and we stopped and we started hiking. And when we started hiking, we crest over this hill, and then it opened up to this massive area with a lake in front of us. And you can see that there was a little path that we had to take. And this path was on the side of this cliff that was cut in about 2 feet with about 1.5 feet wide. And it's literally on the side of this cliff. 100 feet down is rocks and a lake. It is frightening, to say the least. A high wind, push your right over, man. It's a birthplace of wind out there. It's absolutely insane habitat, and probably why there's not a lot of animals out there, but those caribou are resilient. And also on the other side of the island, for anyone that's listening that's kind of interested in going hunting, I suggest doing it in the wintertime because that's when they are on the side that we were on, not when we went. So I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. And it's also easier to track them with the snow on the ground. I couldn't imagine how cold it would be. Anyways, so we did that first hunt, and we went out there, my father and I and Don, one of our other friends that usually go hiking with us, badass, love the guy. We were pretty fit and good to go. And there's another two that were, but there were some that after that day, they maybe went one more day outside of the of our sleeping area, and the rest of the time they just had a nice vacation, drinking expensive beer and hanging out at Bag of Home. I think it's like a 6-pack of Heineken was $40, so that gives you an idea. Well, we went out a few times. And I believe it was the fourth day we went to I can't remember, west, east, or whatever. We just followed a trail, and there's foxholes everywhere, and you can dig in them. I actually, probably not the most intelligent thing, found a foxhole that was filled with water, put my walking stick and jammed it in the foxhole. I mean, it's literally imprints of your grandparents, your grandpa digging in, freezing cold in this crazy area. And he just wanted to dig into this and get away from whatever wind that was there. I'm pretty sure there's stories of they thought they were going further south, and then they ended up just going to Alaska. So they didn't have the best winter gear or gear in general for this type of weather. And anyways, it's just wild. It's wild. I stuck my walking stick in one of these, and I heard a thump, thump. What is that? And so I stuck my arm in there, and I could feel something underneath the mud. And so I pull it out, and it is suctioned in there, like encased from 1943 or whatever they were, 45. And I pull out this board. It just looks like just a plank. And on this plank, there was a little inscription, like a little triangle that looked like it had a half of an A on it. And I stuck my hand back down there, and I pulled another one out. There, sure it is. It's a triangle with an A on it. That was just painted on there. And so I stuck my arm back down in there, and I pulled out a rod, and it was this wooden rod with a brass nipple on the end of it. I pulled out another one. So I think whenever they left, whoever it was, it just threw a whole bunch of garbage in there. I tried looking for more, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if I pull out a grenade or something, that would be unfortunate. So I stopped doing that. But it was really cool pulling out some stuff that, you know, someone left from the war. Always super interesting, and also a beautiful area. That was just my dad and I decided to go and hiking that way. And by the way, we haven't seen any caribou at this time. Lots of footprints. Sure, they were there, but we didn't see squat. I did spot a caribou across, like, I feel like a mile away. But come to find out the next day, we went back there, and that caribou was same spot. Ended up being a rock. So I like to think we call it a rock caribou. Anyway, so that was the 5th day we went back out there. And the 6th day, that's when my father, Don, and I decided to go as far as we can on the map, follow this trail. And there's this open area that's over the hill, through the non-woods, up the mountain, down a mountain, up the mountain, and then on the other side of that one, across this canyon, there's a big bowl where you can just see where they potentially might be. And we started hiking that morning. Shoot, maybe it was 8 o'clock in the morning. It was windy. It was rainy. The wind was coming sideways, sometimes from underneath you. It was just horrible. I have it's like a trapper hat, cowboy hat, what have you, but I had my head down, so it blocked the rain just from pelting my face. And my father was in front of me, and then Don. And I think we went off the trail a little bit just to find our way. We were kind of just going by the map, and it's not easy hiking in Adak. I mean, it's beautiful, but the beauty is just as equal as rough it is. It's crazy, to say the least. I think this is about noon. I remember noon. We got to a place and we hiked for a couple hours. You know, when you're hiking, you have your head down. You're just following the guy in front of you. You don't really have, a really good idea of where you went. You're just going for it. You trust the guy in front of you. They know where they're going. And this comes into play later on. And I remember we sat down, and it was in this valley. There was a mountain to our right, and I believe that's where Husky Pass was at, and that's where the foxholes were. We're about a mile and a half from there. And on the other side is where we were going, where we climb up this mountain, go down the other side of that mountain, and back up another one. And we would get to where we would call it the caribou looking area, where we would just overlook this massive, beautiful area. And if we didn't see anything, then whatever, we made it here, and we're going to make the best of it. I think after lunch, we got to where we wanted to get. I think it was around 2 o'clock. And Don was in front of me. I was in the middle. My dad was behind me. And we were side hilling, trying to get to this area. And we were just there. We were almost there. You can see where we would stop. We would stop and then glass. Just sit there in glass and make a top ramen or something. That's my thing, making top ramen in beautiful areas. And Don goes down this little hill and then runs off. I go down this little hill, slightly, just like slip a little bit. Oh, okay. Keep on going. And my dad's about 10 feet behind me. No, probably a little bit more than that. He's a little bit more than that. Anyways, I see the end, and I'm about to yell down, like, hey, we made it. And I hear my father. I hear someone fall because you can hear his gear. And then I have never, my whole life, have heard my father scream like he did that day at that time when he slipped and he fell. What happened was he slipped down, tried to catch himself, and he tore his patella tendon. Just boom, snap, gone. It roll up in his leg. And he was screaming. He was punching the ground. I yell at Don. said, "Hey, get over here." We immediately said, "What's going on?" He said, my leg. Said, okay. So we go and we grab our trauma kit. We try to brace his leg, or like put his leg up. At that point, we knew that, hey, we're not getting out of here anytime soon. We threw a blanket on him, one of those reflective blankets, because he started like shivering. And it ended up being sunny. Like the wind died down, the clouds went away, the rain went away, and then boom, it was just like a little light breeze and the sunshine just right on top of this mountain. But my dad's screaming for a moment there, and he caught his breath and tried to keep calm. He didn't scream for long, but it's just that first initial scream, like, oh, that's something to hear. But yeah, he just at a moment when you're watching your father, he's having a hard time moving his hands. I think he was going to shock from the pain. So that's when we put the blanket on him, and we started to migrate the stones that we had that were right next to us, and we made about a 2-foot barricade around my dad, where the wind was coming. You don't want to make that too high, because the wind is going to hit that and then just lip over it. Make it too high, then the rocks could just fall on the person right there. But we went straight into survival, make a barricade, make my father comfortable. And after we got done shuffling the stones over and making a pretty cool wall, we were now pondering what to do. My dad calmed down a little bit. I can see it in his face. He had the inReach in his hand. So this would be the first time we used the inReach on ourselves. The bear attack was the second time. But this time it was my dad looking at the inReach and Don and just saying, we have to. We're as far as we could. We went as far as we could have went that day before we wanted to turn around. And yeah, that was it's just my father had the eye, like, just he felt so disappointed in himself. I can see it in his eyes. But he took a deep breath and contacted the Coast Guard, and that's the first time I saw my father in action himself, like trying to save himself. We're there, but he's the only one that knows how to operate that thing, which is something that you probably need to learn to use. That was one of my takeaways from the first podcast, was learn how to use inReach. And so here starts the story of stuck on a mountain with my father and Don on Adak. So I think, time is so odd when you're up there. You're not really paying attention. It's just like, it's sunny. Let's do as much as we can until the sun starts going down. We started paying attention to it a little bit later, and that's for sure. But at the moment, we were just trying to get a message out to let them know, like, hey, we need help. And we got a message back from the Coast Guard or the troopers. I can't quite remember who, but they said, hey, hang tight. We're not going to be there till tomorrow. So we're like, well, we're here. It's not bad. I think we can definitely stick it out till tomorrow. There's no issue with that. So I pulled out my phone. I started playing a podcast, Neil Gaiman, Norse mythology. And that's something my father and I love to hear. So I just want to take his mind off of, having a torn patella tendon or quad tendon. I can't remember if it was quad or patella. Either or. Not good, right? He'd be able to tell you. Maybe it was quad or something. I was just trying to take his mind off of it. And then we get another text back. And he said, hey, bad news. We're not going to be able to go there for, I think the first one they said was 3 days. It was something long to where we're going to be stuck up there. And looking at my dad, he tried getting up and he'd scream, like, oh, still that initial pain settling in. God, it was like watching an injured gorilla just pissed off. Don't be within 2 feet of him. You're in striking range. But then it was one of those times. I think they got back to us, and it just kept getting longer and longer. And that time, Dawn was like, "Hey, I know the way back. I'm going to go back and try to get help and get some food for us, so we can and hike back to us and give us some food." Which is just a Herculean effort to do that, to know where we are at, to then say, "I'm going to go get you guys some supplies." And I mean, there was no contact for us to talk to the Adak people, and I don't think there was people capable of going to where we were or knew how to get to where we were. That is on Adak. I don't think most of those residents go for a nice little joy hike out to where we were. So he went back to get help and show everyone where we were at. So he left. Hindsight, wish he didn't. But could have used his help, because I think it was about an hour after he left when my dad and I were just sitting there, just trying to make the best of it. We get a text from the Coast Guard, I can't remember, the Coast Guard or Navy. There was so many people that they contacted that was all in the loop and saying, "Hey, there is a," and I believe my father was actually working out there too, because he can work out there and see if there's any poachers or anything like that too. They're like, "Hey, there's a guy out there that's working that's injured. He can't go anywhere. He needs a SOS." And they called us back, or they didn't call us, they texted us back, because inReach is Texas satellite, right? It's really slow but efficient at the same time. And they said, "Hey, no one's coming to get you. You're on your own. You have to get out of there." And I remember my dad looking at me and saying, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "We have multiple walking sticks. Let's grab that tourniquet, that rubber. We have it was a rubber tourniquet. And we wrapped it around his leg and splinted his leg straight. And I said, "I'm going to walk in front of you. I'm going to find the easiest path for you. I'm going to guide you out of here, and we're going to get back." And I think we started that at 4, 5 o'clock, something like that. And that's when time started being the enemy, because we wanted to find the trail before it got dark. And you don't know darkness until you're in the middle of the Bering Sea. There is zero light. There's anywhere close. Nowhere close. But also leads for the most magnificent stars, especially this night. And that's when I started walking my father out of there. He was moving slow, but we were going one step at a time. I'm sure that's what he was telling himself the whole time. Just one more step. Just keep on going. Keep on going. That guy is a freaking Terminator. And I would run up ahead of him and then get to a vantage point and direct him where to go, because there's so many little hills. There's so many rocks. Just these hidden areas where you don't know like what's beyond that little lip, unless you have someone on the other side telling you like, "Hey, it's easier to go over here or there." I didn't want him taking one more step than he had to. And there was a point where we were just cresting the hill, going back over the first mountain where we had to go down, then up, and then down into the valley. And I got a little overzealous. I went down from this side hill where my dad was still making his way across. And I sprint ahead because I see the side of the mountain where I'm like, "Oh, I know Husky Valley's over there and Happy Trail's this way. So if I run ahead, I can see this easier area where we need to go." And I remember stopping, turning around, and looking back. It's like, "Oh, there's the moon. So if I ever get lost or get ahead too far, I'll just turn around." Here's another learning lesson. Never use the moon as a waypoint for going anywhere, because you don't know when the clouds are going to come in. Okay? Keep that in mind. So I start sprinting ahead. I run. I go down this little, up a hill, down a hill, up a hill, down a hill, up a hill. Oh, there it is. There's the trail over here. If I go down there, da 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 da. Okay, cool. I turn around, look for the moon. Gone. I have a slight panic. The wind picks up to where you would scream as loud as you wanted to. You can have your 3-year-old scream right next to you, like 10 feet away. You wouldn't hear a thing. That wind took your voice and whipped it down. Gone. I screamed, Dad, hey, Pops, hey. And I knew as soon as it went, gone. So I sprinted in one direction. I stopped. I'm breathing heavy. I'm looking around like, where do I need to go? Oh my God, my dad's broken. I just left him. I'm lost. This is about 10 minutes, this whole thing. And I take a second. I say, hold on. This is not going to help anyone. Take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. Your dad's not moving fast. It's like, losing your grandma in the grocery store. She doesn't move fast, but there's so many twists and turns. But he isn't going anywhere. He's just moving really slow. So I took a couple breaths. All right, get your bearings. You just ran up a couple of hills. They all do look the same. It's kind of wild. But I started moving in one direction, and it turns you around. I actually turned like almost 90 degrees at one point, and got on the trail that I needed to be on. And I saw my dad still working his way down the same slope where I left him, and he had no clue at all that his son just about had a heart attack, and they were both just running around. On Adak. So we get to him. I get to him, and it's just a slow process. Trying to beat the sun to have some light for us to get to the trail, and then we can finally get to the trail, and we can just follow the trail and make our way back. But the trail is still so far away, and there's so many hills. I think it was about 7:30ish. We finally get to where I knew if we just kept on walking down this ravine and around a corner and down a hill and around the corner again, do a 360, jump over here, and boom, we're on that trail again. I had an idea where it was. So by the time we got to the valley where we took lunch, we got to that valley and it went pitch black. It was so dark. And I remember we were sitting at the same place we had lunch. And by the way, the trail that I'm talking about, like a trail, it's not a really defined trail. We made a trail for some of it because, you can just see where your foot, for most time, you can see where you put the blade of grass down. So I ended up turning it into a tracker. But yeah, it's like pitch dark, like Riddick dark. And I remember we were sitting there, no wind. And I'm sitting there looking at our inReach, because our inReach has an app that you can connect to your phone where you can see where you've been and how far you're off from where you were and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's not like, 100% zoom to where you were. It's kind of an educated guess. Really good guess, though. And I remember we're sitting there. There was no clouds in the sky. There was absolutely no wind. It's like, even in your house when you're sitting there, you can feel the air conditioning a little bit, that little bit of breeze. It's not barely noticeable. But here on Adak, the birthplace of wind, there was nothing. You could hear a mosquito fart from 5 feet away. It was quiet. You only can hear us breathe, and that was it, and just the stars. And I remember we were looking at our inReach on our phone, and I picked my head up, and I turned back around to where we just came from. And bear in mind, we're in the middle of a valley. And I can see a light right above where my dad did SOS. And my father's reaction was, oh my God, They sent a helicopter. Why didn't they tell us? Why didn't they tell us there was a helicopter on the way? We would have stayed. And then that same light, within a second, just boom, went straight up in the air, just like 100 feet within a second. Just not even, just blink, bam, up. Then blink, bam, to the right. Boom, to the left. And then it disappeared. And then it came back. Like, I mean, this is all happening just the same as I'm telling you. And my jaw drops to the floor. I'm like, what the heck is that? And then it disappears again. And then two more orbs show up right above it, almost like a triangle. It's right above where we did SOS. Right where, I mean, you can see, I mean, I know where we were. I have an idea. That was a direction, an area right above on that top of that peak where we were just at. And then these three orbs start moving together, disappear, come back. And my dad grabs his flashlight and he starts putting his hand in front of the lamp doing SOS. And I look at my dad. I said, do you hear anything? Now, I was a hot shot for years, firefighting, been up and I know what helicopters sound like. Been in them many, many, many times. My father's been in them many, many, many times because of what he does for his job also. Especially where we were in that valley, you would hear thopping easily. 3. And why would they be moving like that anyways? I remember turning to my dad, do you hear anything? He didn't say anything back. And I was like, you stop that. I do not want to be, I said something else about probing, but I don't want to be abducted. I'm like, let's get out of here. I pulled my phone out. Now, by the way, I have parts of these recorded because I like documenting. Hence why automatically when I got mauled and shot, I just brought my phone out because that's just what I do. I have videos of documenting before this of trying to find our way back. But this point where I want a videotape, I shoot you not. I pull my phone out and does not videotape. I pull my phone. I took a picture, blurred. I tried to videotape, no storage space. Well, no, there was some error on there saying you cannot do this. And so I start frantically trying to delete stuff because I'm trying to make a video. I deleted a couple apps that I love. Now get out of here. Would not videotape. We started walking away, and about an hour after that, my phone started doing videos again. I wouldn't make this up. I don't know why I would. But that is what we saw. The story goes on. We end up finding the trail, or a trail. Let me say a trail, and this trail brings you side hilling, mud with grass on each side, but in this 2-foot cutout with this limp gimp guy just dragging his leg is a canyon. We're in a canyon where you look down and I flash my headlamp down there and you're not seeing the bottom at all. Get not even close. You can hear water rushing everywhere. And we crossed a waterfall. We slid on our butts getting places. We ended up finding what we call the convergence. And by the way, this whole time when we're hiking, I have never seen stars like this. I'm born and raised in Alaska. We don't have much light pollution where we are, but this was incredible. It was the stars behind those stars behind those stars. I took a picture with my phone, and you can see it in your phone. That's in 2001. It's not too far along away, or not long away from where it was. But I mean, still, you try taking pictures of stars, it doesn't really work that well, does it? This, yeah, you can see the stars. Not like Hubble scope or anything like that, but pictures never do justice. But I remember just looking up, and it was beautiful. It is beautiful, and still no wind. God bless that. It's just that night, for some reason, we got blessed with no wind, no rain, no clouds. But The downside of that is with no clouds and everything, it gets pretty cold at night. Pretty cold at night. And we are drenched. Like September on Adak still gets pretty cold. And it actually got frosted that night. We got to where there was this area where I called the convergence. And there's a couple trails that just kind of, I mean, like I said, when I say trails, I use it lightly. Where we knew where we were when we got to this point. And we knew that that lake where we first walk in is right there, which then we got a message later on saying they would meet us there, but they'd get a Zodiac because they're definitely not going to hike where we were on the side of the hill. And they take their Zodiac and, you know, come pick us up, which is also just hard getting down the lake because there's just cliffs all around it. But that night, I've had a lot of cold nights, but that night with no sleeping bag in wet grass, my father and I, you know, tried to get as close as he could. I put socks that I changed out a few times. My feet don't love me too much. I have to get new socks. My feet get wet. It gets hard. I bring like 6 pairs of socks, and all of them were drenched. And I covered I put the least damp socks on my feet, and I put the second least on my hands, and I put the third least on my boots, and then I covered that up again with more socks. And when we woke up, those were frozen. There was frost on us. It was cold. I think the only thing that I fell asleep for a little bit because I shivered so much. I think I just put myself to sleep. And I could sleep anywhere. But yeah, we wasn't the warmest night. And we woke up, and I remember the sun wasn't coming over the mountains yet because we're in this kind of bowl. And I remember getting up and trying to find a path for my father to get to the lake. And that was, like I said, it was pretty difficult because it was all really steep getting down there. I made another video, and I tell you what, the spot that we found, it could have been more perfect. It was just our little spot, our little beach, rocks. And we texted them saying, hey, we made it down to the lake. And they had a little, like 3-man Zodiac. It took them about 20 minutes to get to us. But they could have took their time. In my opinion, I mean, my dad, you know, he's probably like, thank God. But that sun came over those mountains and just beamed off the lake. And then just watching that Zodiac come in after that night of aliens freezing our butts off. It was one of the coolest things ever, you know. And then handing my dad off to them, knowing that I guided my father through Adak that night to get him to safety. My hero. God, that was cool. And they didn't have enough room for me, so I had to sit there and wait for them to come pick me back up. So I got probably, you know, like 40 minutes to myself. Maybe not even that. I don't know. It felt like forever. Probably was a lot faster than that. But I could have sat on that beach for a little bit longer. But they came pick me up and walked my father out. Oh, and also, by the way, we tried to move light, so we left most of our gear, like our guns and stuff, up to where we were. And walked our father out. They had a little hospital there. Saw his leg. Nasty. My feet were gnarly. We got back, and you bet your bottom, I bought myself a 6-pack of Heineken, and I was like, I'm enjoying this. And funny enough, we watched Riddick that night. I mentioned that earlier. That night, our plan, I looked at Don, I was like, we need to go back up there and get our guns. Yes, we do. So I didn't want to, but we had to. That night when we were back, it was a monsoon. It literally was shaking the house, and it was downpouring. When Don and I went to go back, a little stream turned into a freaking river. A little waterfall was now Niagara Falls. I have a video of Don with his hands on his hip looking at this waterfall where we took a picture on the second day or third day we were out there. This same little waterfall. It looked like just like little trickles coming off of a rock. It was ripping to where you couldn't even hear the guy next to you talking. That was a rough hike out there. But we actually got to see where my dad and I walked that night on the side of this canyon, which was just, wow. Yeah, that is really in the moment. I wasn't really thinking that, just making our way there. But we made it through that. But we got our guns, we got it back, and we had a nice rest day. And then we went back to Soldotna, Alaska. And I think 6 months later, my dad went to Sitka and became a trooper. So, like I said, he's a Terminator. The guy does not stop. You know, he's the mandatory retirement at 57. And the state troopers, well, from being Fish and Wildlife Federal, and the troopers were like, nah, dude, you're coming with us. And he went to trooper school at 58 years old, 57. I think he turned 58. And a whole bunch of 20-year-olds, and he just tore his quadricep or patella tendon, 6 months prior, and he's just running miles. That guy's like I said, he don't stop. It's just crazy. But that was one of my favorite stories to tell before, I ended up shooting myself and getting mauled by a grizzly bear, which then my dad in turn saved me. So I said no more going back and forth. Let's keep it at that.
So what did your dad end up, when he got back to mainland, did he end up having surgery on his leg?
Yep, he had surgery on his leg.
Okay. And how long before, obviously you said 6 months he was back in school, but I mean, I suppose he was on crutches for a while.
I think he was running by like 2.5 months.
Holy wow. Wow.
Dude, the guy just does not stop. And I remember thinking, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm healing myself. I'm not going to sit still. Like, I can blood flow, bro. I'm like, okay. And you know what? I did the same thing when I got all my wounds from the bear. And I was like, I'm not going to sit still. And I just got done running 4 miles. So I'm good, man. It didn't take me long either. I guess it's just in our blood.
So how many miles back? So you guys must have drove to this area, correct? And then you hiked in from there. So how many miles back do you think you were from the truck?
From the truck, as a crow flies, I think it was about 4 miles over that as a crow flies. So
okay,
that's, I didn't have my Garmin at the time, so I don't know how far we walked, but when you're walking, it's not a straight line. I can tell you that. It was a lot longer than that. It might have been closer to, I can't even, 7-10 miles. It's hard to say. It felt long ways, especially when, you're, especially for my dad. Shoot.
So did you ever find out why the Coast Guard wouldn't come get you guys?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. At that time, a week later, we heard on the news, they never gave us an answer. They never gave us an answer.
Okay. But
the news at that time was freaking out. If you look back in September 2021, you'd see news that there was a Chinese battleship and like 3 others just outside of Adak, like not too far away. And they were all right there. And so they were pretty busy trying to, I don't know, they're just saying hello to the Chinese battleship, maybe. I'm not sure, but one can speculate. Again, Adak is one of those places that it's just so far out there. It has some infrastructure, and it's so wild. They did a movie or a show about gold, and they're like, hey, you can't go past this gate. Like, what's past that gate? Oh, there's exploding ordinances, like, don't go back there. Like, no, there's an alien mothership out there. I can tell you that. I don't know. I'm just saying. But maybe, no one knows. But yeah,
after those seeing those lights, you guys must have been. Were you guys freaked out, or like, let's get the hell out of here? Or
I think my dad chose to ignore the fact that there was aliens, because he's still to this day. He's like, nah. I'm like, you know what, dude? Like, he's a guy that doesn't even think about ghosts or anything. I ain't even straight arrow. I don't know what I saw out there. What could have I saw out there? You tell me. What would you think it would be? Some people say drones, and I'm like, okay. From whom? Chinese? Why? Why would it move like that?
In the middle of nowhere.
Why is there there's no military base here anymore? I walked through it. It's all gone. Like literally they stripped the copper out of everywhere. Like, it's just
yeah, there's nothing there to hide. One wouldn't think, but who knows?
I don't know. Big ass fireflies. I don't know, man.
In September?
Fireflies on Adak? Come on. That big? Like, yeah, no, they were orbs. It was like a I don't know. it was a light. And it was multiple lights. There's multiple lights. They moved the way they moved, and I've never seen anything move like that except for a hummingbird, maybe. That is just wild.
So when you got back into town, did you make mention about what you've seen to any of the locals at all, or?
I know there wasn't much locals to talk about what we saw out there. And at the time, I mean, I was just focusing when we were at the hospital, just looking at my dad's purple leg and swollen up. And, I mentioned a few lights, a lot of people go, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I'll just keep this to myself, I guess. Whatever. There's not a lot of people to talk to on Adak.
You'd think the people that live there, they might have seen something in the past or not, or.
Hindsight, I wish I would have asked questions, but then maybe they wouldn't have let me leave the island. So.
Was there any outfitter at all, or you guys just strictly got there, rented a truck, and drove around?
Adak Adventures, yeah.
Adak Adventures.
I don't think they go hunting. I just speculating. I think they just live there and have a place for people. They have quite a bit of visitors. From what I heard, my neighbor got like 4 caribou there, the year after me, but he went in December, I think.
Okay, so there actually is caribou there somewhere.
Yes, like I said, they're on the other side of the other side. You could take a boat, but they're like, yeah, that's $15,000. I'm like,
nope. I'll be hiking.
Yeah, something like that. Like 15, something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was 7. Either way, or 4. I don't know. I was like, nah, man, I ain't doing that. All right. Yeah, 15 to 4,000 is quite a big jump, but you know what? It might as well have been 100,000. I wasn't going to take it.
So, after going through all this, you learned how to use an inReach, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So
yeah, it saves people's lives. Your life.
Yeah, they definitely do, especially in bear attack situations.
You just have to swallow your pride and use it at the proper time, because it's not easy to admit that you are needing help, especially with people like us. You're just that type of person. You're like, I can do it myself. That's why you're out there. For some of us, that's why we're out there. We're just do-it-yourself kind of people. We enjoy that kind of thing. We don't really accept help sometimes, but it is really hard to accept help or swallow that pill and be like, hey, I need to make a phone call. I couldn't imagine for my dad how hard that was, especially since he's usually that person that comes to those calls. He is that guy that goes out to you and pulls you out of those situations. He is that guy that gets a call at 1:00 in the morning and he goes out to Tuscaloosa and he gets on a boat with 3 to 4 foot swells and goes save you from a capsized boat. And, these are stories that he's done before. Talk about a guy that has stories. Shoot, my father has stories too. Going and saving people. But for that kind of guy that realized that he needs help, that's a pill to swallow, and he did it. Even though no one came for that time, it was just his son that pulled through. Other than the bear attack, they came and got me. So that's kind of cool.
I assume your dad must have been livid at that moment when they denied him coming to get him, or
I don't know.
Or is he pretty professional and understood, things happen? And
Yep. I think he was disappointed but I think we give each other hope. I think that's something we do pretty well. Keep each other's spirits up, and especially in hard times. So that's just something that we work well together that type of way. So if it gets to the worst, I think we'd be able to. Yeah, I think we do good. Well, I know we do good, actually. So.
I guess it's a whole nother reason to always have a partner with you, no matter if you're hiking or hunting, or no matter what you're doing out in the backcountry, to always have a partner with you.
Yes, sir. Always have a good partner with you.
Or
be the good partner.
Once again, think if this time around, your last story with your bear, if you were by yourself, or now this time, if your dad was by himself. There's no self-rescue on something like that.
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild, man. We love the wild. Sometimes it can be wild back. It's just
So I guess, what did you learn other than try to learn how to use it inReach after the fact? But what else did you learn out of the trip that may be applied in the future?
Well, that how to put a splint on and how effective that can be. That definitely probably reduces pressure on the leg. Sometimes help doesn't come out, and you just got to do it yourself. That's something that you're not always going to get help, even if you have the tools for it. It's not always going to come. And I learned that under adversity, my father and we can survive. And I think that's a very valuable thing we learned, and we were able to put into practice again a couple of years later.
Yeah, some of you people out there listening to this, this is going to be the second podcast that Tyler has. His first one's going to be about his bear attack. But yeah, I think, that definitely had to help you when the bear attack situation happened, because, your dad's used to these situations all the time, and not so much. But obviously, after dealing with this with your dad, and then all of a sudden when now the tables are turned and you're the one injured, it probably give you some confidence, I would think. Like, okay, we did it. We did it the first time, and I had to take care of my dad, and now I know my dad can handle anything. Like, now he's going to take care of me. So,
whenever I hear someone talk about turntables, I either think of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, or The Office, when he says, "Oh, how the turntables are turntabled," or something. I can't remember what he says. But it just always goes through my head. But that actually, earlier today, when I was thinking about this, I was like, it's really funny how it's a turntable. It's a good one.
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing this story, Tyler. Hopefully the U.S. government doesn't come knocking on your door and asking you about orbs and lights and what you saw. And
maybe my memory got wiped. I don't know. There's a few hours that are gone missing on my phone.
If the Men in Black show up, if Will Smith shows up at your house, and he's got one of these little flashy things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Didn't happen.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
You don't expect to see glowing orbs in the sky when your biggest concern is getting your injured father off the mountain. But that's not what Tyler saw. 4 miles from help, dragging his dad through the freezing dark on Adak Island. No rescue coming, no way out, but forward. And then, lights. Silent, hovering, watching. They never made contact. They didn't need to. The message was clear. You're not alone out here. This wasn't just a story about an injury. It was a story about what happens when systems fail, when help isn't an option, and when the only way out is through. Tyler didn't hesitate. He didn't panic. He did what most people only hope they could do. He got his father back to that truck. But survival shouldn't rely on luck and youth. Here's what this story should leave you with. Never go alone. You might walk in by yourself, but you might not walk out. Make sure to have a lifeline, such as a Garmin inReach, a sat phone, or an emergency beacon, and don't count on any cell phone service. Count on gear that works when nothing else does. Train to be your own rescue, because on Adak and in a lot of wilderness, no one's coming. There are no teams, no medics, no shortcuts. If you're hurt, you're the only one who can get you home. And most importantly, respect the wild, and not just the land or the weather, but whatever else is out there. Sometimes it watches, sometimes it follows, and sometimes it doesn't explain itself. And remember to always stay safe out there and enjoy all that Mother Nature has to offer. If you like what you heard today, click the subscribe button to hear more upcoming stories. If you or someone you know have a survival story you'd like to share, contact me at isurvivethewildoutdoors@gmail.com.